What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So Gotham Knights is approaching. There are a lot of concerns. I've been taking my time to dissect each and every one that I can get my hands on. And most of these concerns are specifically about just, some kind of insecurity. A lot of gamers have gone through a barrage of very bad video games. A lot of video game companies have taken advantage of that fun childlike side of the video game aspect of entertainment. Usually video games are a thing that kids adopt and eventually they grow up with. I'm not saying this is always the case, but most of the time. And one thing that we got to see was over the past few years, a lot of video game companies were able to use all kinds of interesting marketing tactics to grab the wallets of gamers who were not necessarily paying attention. And this is why I, as a YouTuber, I always try my best to make sure that I tell everyone that's watching my channel that if they are looking forward to a game, the very best bet that they can actually, go ahead and apply is to not buy the game until they see reviews, or at least they see, that there is some measure of elements on the game that they actually do like. And so this brings us to this comparison that I've seen with Gotham Knights, about it being some sort of a comparable Saints Row reboot type game. Now, this is very interesting overall, and I thought we would go ahead and take a look at it. Now, here's the crazy thing about this comparison is that I actually own a copy of Saints Row, the reboot or whatever the heck it is, the new Saints Row game that just came out, but I've never played it before. Now, it's not because I don't want to play it. It's actually because I have no interest in playing it. And you may be wondering, well, how did you get your hands on Saints Row? I mean, like, you just go buy a game that you didn't, want? Actually, no, I didn't buy the game technically. I purchased a graphics card for an upgrade that I've been trying to put together for 2 years because the prices were crazy. Having waited up to this point, graphics cards crashed because of the crypto, merger with Ethereum and all of that stuff. And they were doing promotions. So for the AMD cards, you actually got a bundle of 3 games. One of them was a Saints Row game, you got Sniper Elite 5, and you also got Forspoken. I would give the codes away if I could, but they tie it down to your AMD account. You cannot give out or gift these codes. So I was like, well, I'm stuck with this dumb game. Maybe one day I'll play it. Well, apparently I've never still touched it. I have no interest to touch the game. And I raised this particular comment or concern because the very first thing about the Saints Row game and so on and so forth is it's going to have to make its way through, the barrier of interest. And if Gotham Knights does not interest anyone, they're not going to play it. For the most part, a lot of people that are looking forward to Gotham Knights, a lot of people that are actually trying to, play the game are already interested in the game and will play the game. And people that are not paying attention to the game, they're not going to bother. Why? Because the game is not in their purview. They couldn't care at all if there's a game named Gotham Knights that's out there. And just like I couldn't care at all if there's a game named Saints Row Reboot out there, and a game is literally sitting in the library that I have for Epic Games and I'm not touching it, then I think that's going to be the very first aspect of those kinds of things. Now, what's crazy is there are some people who said they actually enjoyed Saints Row in this entire community here that we're in. Very small community of, people that watch the YouTube videos surrounding Gotham Knights. I've seen different sides of this whole conversation. You guys know I actually read your comments because that's how I'm able to make a lot of videos addressing the different areas of Gotham Knights. And for me was very surprising. I thought to myself, well, that gave me a head scratching moment right there. Because some people said they don't like it. Some people say they absolutely hate it. In fact, we even have some people who, said they could see from a distance that this game, which is Saints Row Reboot, was not going to be good. And I thought to myself and said, man, that's really interesting because it's very hard to judge how you're going to, interact with the game from what other people are saying when the game hasn't necessarily yet released. Because once the game released, all the gloves come off. The game is now here, and everybody can now take, pretty much a shot at the game or at least compliment the game for things that it's done very well. And so the whole conversation about the Saints Row reboot is, maybe in some cases slightly relevant, and in other cases maybe not as relevant as, we would think. But at the end of the day, though, it still brings us to this particular position where that whole aspect of interest and the whole aspect of the fandom is going to be very critical here. Now, we have to also look at the fans of Gotham Knights compared to the fans coming from Arkham. These are two parties, very different in their approach to how they see, this Gotham Knights game. I've looked around and I think I've reduced it, though. For most of the Arkham fans that are still finding issue with Gotham Knights, the main thing about their issue is it's not an Arkham game. But I always have made the argument that it is not an Arkham game because Warner Brothers studio Rocksteady that made the Arkham games, they abandoned their fans. They literally abandoned us. In an interview, said that they were no longer going to be making Batman games. What's his name? Stephen Hill, the director of Rocksteady Limited, said that. And so in that whole conversation, in that interview, he was pressed multiple times. And he said their studio were going to move on to something else. And they decided that they were going to go to making a video game called Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. This is pretty much what our Arkham game became. And so I can't necessarily hold Warner Brothers Montreal to that standard. And so I'm coming into this just on a neutral ground and looking and saying, let's see what these folk can do. And if they do a good job, they're definitely going to be commended for it, even though they're not, really going to get the full commendation. I wish they had taken another set of superheroes to make their game. That would probably have provided, say, a fresh outlook. But, the entire, stigma and everything that Rocksteady had done, that legacy is very, very hard for, to be forgotten. But at the same time, I'm looking and I'm like, well, yeah, it's hard to be forgotten, but, they're the ones who said they weren't doing it anymore. So we can't stay or dwell in the past. We got to continue to go forward. Like right now, Insomniac, who has a wonderful IP with a superhero that's very popular. Can you imagine Insomniac saying, we're no longer doing Spider-Man games anymore? Like, what? Would that not surprise you? Would that not shock you? Are you going to, eventually start saying, to any other studio that's working under Sony that decides that they're going to do another superhero game, are people going to judge those other studios? Are they going to say, oh, well, those studios should have done another Spider-Man game? I mean, that doesn't make sense to me. That's not a standard that I feel can, be applied objectively across the board. So for those who are, worrying about the Saints Row thing, at the end of the day, if you care about the Arkham games or if you care about the Bat Family games, you're going to be fine. You're going to find something to do with this game. If you don't care about the game, then, at the end of the day, you're not going to like it. So that's pretty much my own thoughts regarding this particular concern. And I would love to hear you guys' thoughts in the comment section. So thanks so much for watching the video. I really appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon.